This one's long, so let's make this fast. Leave more points for part 8 in the comments because I have a feeling that you're gonna want one, and stick around until the end for the possible identity of Mrs. Afton. Greetings gamers and welcome back to Top 10 Gaming. I'm Connor Monroe and this is the Top 10 Fnaf Tiny Details You Don't Really Think About, Part 7. Let's do it. In a 10 animatronic bite. We all know the story of Fnaf 4's 8-bit minigames and cutscenes, where a crying child ends up getting chomped in the mouth of the Fredbear animatronic thanks to his older brother and his friends putting him in there. I proposed a different idea that not many people seem to appreciate, but thanks to the comments of one Thanos Snap on a previous part, it helped me realize, how did Fredbear manage to crush a crying child's skull enough to put him in a coma? We originally believed that it was due to a spring lock failure since we saw someone wearing the suit in a previous part, but what we forgot about is that while on stage, Fredbear isn't in suit mode, it's an animatronic, so the spring locks were already all in place, and there wouldn't be any way that it should be able to crush his skull, and the chomping force of the mouth is going to have to be way over regulation to be able to cause the amount of damage we see, and if the suit was capable of that, nobody would wear it. There is no feasible explanation that allows what we see on screen to be the actual scenario where crying child dies, so how did this actually happen? And does this go to only further enhance my explanation of this scene? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and maybe we can work this out together. In the 9 Paper Pals. The Paper Pals are a group of paper plate versions of our favorite animatronics. Well, a couple of them. In Fnaf 2, we can see paper plate versions of Bonnie, Freddy, and a human-looking one that might possibly be Balloon Boy. And while these may be crafts made by kids at the restaurant, or they might sell kits for you to be able to make these at home, where did the originals come from and how can they move? In Fnaf 2, the human-like Paper Pal can actually move from Cam 4, where it's originally found, into the office. And in Fnaf 3, the 3 Paper Pals can do the same thing, using this teleporting mechanic seemingly at random. How can they do this? How can paper cutouts teleport between rooms? Is it a hallucination or something else? I don't know, and it terrifies me. Imagine all the paper cuts this thing would give if it jump scared you. Ow. Tail Trap. This was mentioned in the comments of one of the Funtime Foxy Facts lists by a user that I could not find the comment of twice, so I apologize. I really need to take note of this stuff. Anyway, the comment suggested that Funtime Foxy's tail could be where its containment chamber for the kids is collected. You know, like the containment chamber for the kids would be in its tail, which is an interesting idea, and it would give a reason as to why Foxy all of a sudden got a tail in sister location, but the beginning of the tail is so small that it would have to really squish the kid down to the size of like a Toblerone bar before actually getting to the wider part, so it's unlikely, but still something to think about. And it's 7 Charlie. The original Fnaf novel trilogy had a big plot twist at the end. In the Fnaf novel The Fourth Closet, it's revealed that the main protagonist, Charlie, was actually the third in a series of 4 robots that were a recreation of Henry's daughter, who was killed at an early point in her life. However, the final version was incomplete and could also switch between looking like a real human, so much so that another character wanted to make Whoopi with them, to looking like Baby, you know, like the actual Baby animatronic, thanks to pins located around Baby's body like we see in the games. I've used this as evidence for another theory before, but we've never stopped to really ask how she's able to look so realistic. And it's a big point, because this is the same argument people use to try and debunk my theory. How does the skin work? In the novels, it's revealed that she actually has fake blood, which makes sense since, you know, if you get cut and you don't bleed, someone's gonna get suspicious. I hope. Which means the skin should be able to bruise. But where did this technology come from? It's so realistic, someone wants to see all of it, yet it's still fake. How is this possible? But more so, it also helps in my theory proving that my scenario is entirely plausible. I'm not moving from my stance that Michael Afton, or the Big Brother, in the games is a robot version of Crying Child created after Crying Child dies. In whatever happened, because obviously what we see isn't actually what happened. Because, like, there's no way Fredbear chopped it. And it's 6 Fourth Child. A lot of people seem to fixate on Clara from Sister Location's Immortal and the Rest list for a proxy for Mrs. Afton, the mother of the Afton kids, since she talks to a vampire meant to represent William, whose name is Vlad. However, the theme of the show is Vlad constantly denying that the baby is his. Clara, the baby isn't mine, even though the baby can turn into a bat and sleeps hanging upside down. But what if there is more to that than just being a proxy for William's wife? Because I doubt Clara would be the name of the character and the name of the mother if William's character is named Vlad. What if this is secretly revealing that William has a fourth child? One that hasn't met a terrible fate yet. One that perhaps William didn't believe was his when his wife told him. So much so that he divorced her on the grounds that she cheated and he got the kids. A simple paternity test would reveal that he is the father, but he could claim that they were faked, like how Vlad denies the child being his, even though it's literally a vampire. And William is well connected, so bringing a trial would be easy cheese. He has to be well connected to not have been actually thrown in prison. There has to be something going on. Now, who could this secret child be? This may be a stretch, but what about Gregory? Unless we go off my theory that in FNAF 1 and 2 we play as Henry, we've only played as characters of the Afton family until FNAF VR potentially. So what if the fourth child is the one we play as in Security Breach, and that's why Vanny is trying to capture him? Or more realistically, what if Vanessa is the child, and that's how William was able to take control of their mind? They're related. Only time will tell. How about do it at number 5, Premonition? Now, I'm not talking about real psychic powers here, but what if the ending of Security Breach was pointed out to us way before even Sister Location was released? That's right, I'm talking about FNAF 4, baby! The stomach mouths of the animatronics is always assumed to be because Crying Child saw Elizabeth get scooped. But what if it was really foreshadowing the events of games to come? We know that Gregory will hide inside Glamrock Freddy. Perhaps while we're in there in first person, we will watch ourselves get crushed, helpless. That would be fun. However, I want Chica to be the one to step on me. I mean crush me. Yeah. Crush me. And then for Gregory, continuing on Security Breach, what connection does Gregory have with anyone else in this game? I mean, he could be the fourth child, it's unlikely but possible in a way, but how on earth does he have a watch that connects to the security cameras of the place? Does he get it in the security room? And who would leave a piece of tech that would be so useful to anyone they're trying to stop out in the open? Right for the taking. Was it Vanessa? Does she know she's compromised? I mean, she does in Special Delivery, but is Ness the Vanessa we're thinking of, or is it just a name meant to confuse us? Because Scott's done that before. I don't know anymore. I'm sad. Take the multiple uses of the name Jeremy. What is that, dude? And 3, Special Delivery. The animatronics from Special Delivery were supposed to be friendly, basically being a nice way for the company to rebuild their image. But then, they send out angry animatronics that try and kill you. Why did they think that was a good idea? And I get that they were hacked by the Afton virus, but there is plenty of sus things going on in this game. Like, why, if the company was trying to rebuild its reputation with these friendly animatronics, have they not shut down the project after I'm sure they've gotten emails and stuff about the animatronics going rogue? And why the absolute hell did they include versions of Springtrap, a character that we know thanks to the man in room 1280, everyone knows is guilty. They have multiple versions of him as well, the normal one, the toxic one, and the curse, which is a recent addition as far as I know. They literally named him the Curse. It's... what? Just remove him from the program. Why would I want to order a literal killer? Is this the same thing as when girls say that serial killers are hot? Because that's also messed up. How am I supposed to compete with that? Actually, there is a solution. I'll be back. And it too, just an illusion. FNAF Sister Location is probably one of the most popular FNAF games to date, with plenty of fan favorites like Funtime Freddy, Foxy, and Baby being added, as well as the new fan art favorite Ballora. However, is what you see really what you get in this particular FNAF game? Well, it's a good question, and you may be thinking, Connor, of course it is. What are you talking about? You're dumb. And if you are saying that, I'd like to direct you to when we have to repair Funtime Freddy in Sister Location. As we open up his chest cavity, we can see a weird disc, something that's being described in the books as being able to create illusions using sound. And it seems to be flashing red. They call it a power module, but there is no way that that little disc is a power module. And if it's one of those discs, could it be changing the look of everything? Hell, this could have taken place in the basement of a goddamn shack, and we wouldn't know. It's pretty scary to think about. Finally, in at number 1, Mrs. Afton. We don't know the identity of Mrs. Afton. We don't even know if there is a Mrs. Afton, or if she was just a baby mama, or hell, if William's kids are just adopted. Most people draw a connection between Mrs. Afton and Clara from Immortal and the Restless, so much so that people believe Mrs. Afton's name is Clara. However, I propose the idea that could explain what happened to Mrs. Afton, and it makes a great amount of sense. The Fazbear Frights books were meant to help explain bits of the in-game lore, along with making Scott more money. Take the book Bunny Call with the story The Man in Room 1280, which I keep going back to, but this time I'm talking about the story 1:35 AM from the book of the same name. This story revolves around Delia, who has recently gotten divorced from her husband. heartbroken because she never got the family that she wanted. She comes across a garage sale that has a doll that looked exactly like the daughter she had envisioned. She buys it and finds out that it's an alarm clock. Then, much like an actual baby, instead of waking her up when she wanted, she ends up getting woken up at 1:35 a.m. every morning. It gets so bad she runs away and hides in a factory ventilation shaft where she waits until she dies or suffocates. That's a really brief synopsis, but let's look at the parallels between Delia and Mrs. Afton as well as Delia's story. Delia's parents died when she was young, so she was put into the foster care system where she was bounced around from family to family, but also was continuously abused. Eventually, she fell in love and was ready to start a family until her husband divorced her, which could be the case between William and his partner. We have no evidence as to what happened between them, so we can only speculate. Delia never managed to get the kids she wanted, and Mrs. Afton, assuming she was still alive, didn't get the kids in any form of divorce or court hearing, since we see the three of them living with William in Fnaf 4 and Midnight Motorist. And then the surrogate daughter for Delia is a possessed doll. We learn she is possessed in another story where Phineas Taggart needs it to study agony, much like how William's daughter Elizabeth ends up possessing basically a giant robotic doll. The connection is somewhat loose, yes, but certainly more solid than Clara, since she was just talking to a purple-suited vampire about having this kid, and Vlad was denying it, despite it clearly being his, but still. Perhaps both of these stories combine together to create the story of Mrs. Afton. Not to mention the next story in that book is about the mini-Renas, who are meant to be Bellora's surrogate children. And who do people think that Bellora either represents or is possessed by? Mrs. Afton. There we have it, friends, the top 10 FNAF tiny details you don't really think about part 7. Please give me some more points down below, or I won't be able to make another part. These are hard as a mental coma purgatory that I'm waiting in because a ghost child has decided to possess me and not let me die. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Thank you all so much for watching. I have been and shall remain Connor Monroe, and I'll see you in another video.